there isn't that many young people, there isn't that many females in it. And that goes back again to seeing people like, for example, I'm a younger broker in the industry, but seeing someone my age get started in the industry and being like, it is possible and be a young female in industrial. It is possible.
Welcome to the Commercial Real Estate Academy podcast, the podcast dedicated to simplifying the commercial real estate industry for the masses. Each week, we sit down with industry experts to dissect the many facets of commercial real estate and extract valuable lessons you can apply to your business. Whether you're a new or seasoned business owner or investor, the Commercial Real Estate Academy podcast will be your go-to resource for all your commercial real estate needs. Now, here are your hosts, Raphael Collazo and Jeff Walston.
Well, good morning, Chloe. Great to see you.
Good morning. Thank you for having me. Excited to be here.
Absolutely. And where are you tuning in from today?
I'm in Charleston, South Carolina, prepping for a hurricane.
Wow. Yeah, I know you guys are. I mean, it's kind of crazy what's been happening in Florida, and it's obviously coming up the coast. So hopefully you guys will be okay. I was living in Puerto Rico back in 2017 when Hurricane Maria hit. So I know hurricanes are no fun. So hopefully you guys will be safe and everything else. But I've heard great things about Charleston. We've had a couple people on the podcast actually that I believe operate in Charleston as well. So it's I hear great things. So I'm looking forward to going one day.
Absolutely. You gotta come experience it.
Oh, absolutely. No, for sure. So, what we typically like to do when we first get started with a podcast is we like to learn a little bit more about the person that we're interviewing. So if you don't mind kind of sharing a little bit about yourself, I think that'd be great.
Yeah. So my name is Chloe Heiligenstein. I born and raised Madison, Wisconsin. I came to Charleston, South Carolina to attend the College of Charleston, specifically studying real estate. That's always been something I knew I kind of wanted to do not like your average broker. I feel like everyone falls into it. But when I was like 15, I knew I wanted to get into real estate. So came here, knew I wanted to focus on commercial real estate. We have a commercial real estate finance program at the College of Charleston. Made sure to get really involved in the community, grow my network down here locally. Then started with Colliers when I was a junior at the College of Charleston, and then COVID hit 2 months after. So really isn't your typical start getting into brokerage, but graduated May 2021 and been with Colliers in total with my internship a little over 2.5 years, but as a broker, just a little over a year and a half. So it's been fun. I'm really glad to be here, and I'm learning a lot every day, especially like you said, Charleston is growing just at such an exponential speed with everything that the port is doing that it's crazy. Because at first I was like, let me get started in a bigger market to kind of learn the fundamentals of the business and take it from there on out. But then with COVID, everything kind of exploded down here. So it's been great.
No, for sure. And for those of you guys who don't know, Chloe operates in the industrial sector. So, you're right. I mean, COVID has been unbelievable for that sector. And obviously it had been a big growth. It had experienced a significant growth leading up until COVID, but I think COVID kind of put it in overdrive. And
absolutely. I remember when I first started, it was kind of like a typical deal cycle with some free rent, with kind of a ballpark range of a typical, you're getting a big industrial box, and then COVID happened. We had a lot of uncertainty. We were doing short-term leases, like 9-month deals. And the next thing you know, it was just rent growth up 8% every month and craziness. But it's definitely been an exciting time learning the market and the business at a very fast speed. But
oh, that's awesome. No, and kind of alluding back to what you had mentioned in your career path, it is somewhat unusual to have an idea of what you want to do that early on, which is kind of cool. Similar. I was in engineering before, and then I got into the brokerage side, and I know a lot of other people have kind of transitioned in from either different careers or maybe they've had family in the business. So it just kind of indicates the diversity of ability to be able to get into business, because there's not a one box for a broker. It can literally be anyone.
So. Well, yeah, and I came in when I moved to Charleston. I really wanted to be a residential real estate agent just because I didn't grow up with it. I watched a lot of HGTV, knew I wanted to do something entrepreneurial. So it kind of was the natural path for me. And I also love people. So I was like, what can I do? Selling a tangible asset and kind of capitalize on that. And then in my commercial real estate finance class when I was 18, my first semester of freshman year, we had brokers, developers, property managers, architects, every different aspect of real estate come in. And I was like, why do I resonate with the broker so much? And then kind of took it from there on out, just learning as much as I could. Like I would tell everyone I wanted to be a broker without really even knowing what a broker was, but just learning about, I mean, industrial wasn't the asset class I thought I'd be specialized in either, but I absolutely love it and the whole deal process now at this point. So it's been great.
That's awesome. No, yeah. And you know, you kind of fall into your specialization. I'm more on the retail side on my local market, but that's through just trial and error and finding out where you fit. So it's kind of cool
Exactly.
to see that experience. One thing I was kind of curious about is, you know, one of the things that I often get asked, and I'm sure you get asked all the time, is how did you leverage your network to get the opportunity? Because, you know, in residential real estate, a lot of times you can just go into a brokerage and they're trying to recruit you to come. But in the
Hmm.
brokerage, on the brokerage side, and particularly on the commercial end, it's not necessarily as easy to
Yeah,
get
no,
those opportunities. So
absolutely. Kind of,
how were you able to kind of leverage those that your network to be able to do that?
yeah. So I met the few brokers that came into my class. It kind of was a buzzword in my mind. If anyone came in and was like, I'm a broker, I was like, oh, let's get coffee. Like,
Mhm.
why not? Let me learn more about what you do and see if I can kind of relate to you. I ended up actually working for the real estate center at the College of Charleston, which really helped me kind of grow. Like, I had all the contact information of donors and people that were willing to help out in the class. That helped me. And then I started attending commercial real estate woman crew events, and that really helped me get more comfortable with the idea of networking. And I feel like it's so under talked about that networking is not, it's not a natural thing to just be in a room full of strangers and have to make conversation. So I started doing that pretty early on, which I'm extremely grateful I did, because you meet one person who wants to introduce you to this person, and again, just meeting as many people as I could. And then when I'd meet anyone that had the title of a broker, I'd be like, again, coffee. And then I started really focusing on LinkedIn, which is where I was like, I'm connecting with anyone that does real estate in Charleston just so I can get my name out there. I was a sophomore at the time. And then from then there on out, I was able to sit down with the brokers and just have conversations, not more so being like, I want something from you. I want an internship. I want a job, because I was still so young and anything can change. So it was more of an informative conversation. And I think that really helped me grow my network and just how I approach those conversations. And like my second internship was actually at a small boutique retail firm in Charleston. And I got the internship because I connected with a broker in Chicago who connected me with his son in Dallas, who connected me with their local contact here. So just little things like that. But ultimately, that helps you grow your network, because everyone that's trying to help you is someone that you introduce yourself in, who knows you as a person indirectly. So I mean, ever since then, I've just been able to kind of grow outside of Charleston with LinkedIn as well as in the Colliers network. So
That's awesome.
it's been a long time coming. I've been working on it for quite some time, but I'm glad I started when I did.
Yeah, I know, and I think it showcases the diligence you've taken over the course, you know, several years, and it is a process. It's not something that, you know, and again, I'm sure you get it, and I'm sure a lot of other people get it. It's you get people to call and say, hey, like I want to join the brokerage, or hey, I want to do this, and
Mhm.
it's like that's great, but you know, what's your value proposition in that situation? Whereas if you take the approach of telling everyone that you're looking to get into brokerage, and you know, you nurture that relationship over time, again, a lot of times with these brokerage teams, they want to make sure you're a good fit for the organization,
Exactly. And
right?
when I talk to younger folks that are in college that want to get into the business, I tell them to meet with as many people as possible and really find like who you get along with the best. And again, it definitely is a personality thing, because there's so many different types of brokers in this business. And that's again, seeing different partnerships and interacting with different brokers and seeing how they conduct their business helps me be like, all right, this is kind of what I want to do. And again, starting early. And I also like, I think it's super important to set goals as you grow your network and how many people you want to be talking to. And I was really diligent in doing that in the Colliers network when I was still an intern. So meeting with all the younger brokers, meeting with all the industrial brokers, and just doing informative calls and just cultivating that relationship. So I have people that I obviously still keep in touch with. We have our national conference next week, and I'm so excited because I know so many people, and that's because I set goals and having these intro calls and all that. I have a like 3-page document that has all the advice that anyone that like more of a senior broker gave me as I was getting into brokerage, of just like, what were their words of wisdom to me. So I haven't opened it yet. I think I'm gonna wait till like 2025 in
There
a
you
few
go.
years, but it's gonna be cool to look back on and be like, wow, this is so true, and just little tidbits to remember.
That's awesome. No, that's some great advice. So one thing, you got the opportunity at Colliers, right? And so now you've been in the business for about a year and a half in the brokerage capacity. I understand you were an intern before, and you probably operated in a similar capacity as what you are currently. But I'm sure you've talked about it with a lot of different brokers around the country. Is that the first year or two is always kind of like getting your footing. It can be a little bit of a struggle, a little bit of a challenge. So can you talk about some of the challenges that maybe you faced, and, maybe some of the lessons you've learned through this period of time?
Yeah, I mean, definitely starting in a market that was continuing to gain traction was definitely hard, because I came in with the mindset of, I'm gonna canvas each little submarket. I mean, we are a tertiary market, but you still can kind of break up where the industrial pockets are. And so I was like, okay, my market president would sit down with me and be like, every tenant, every landlord. And that was kind of the bread and butter of how I was going to learn the market. Started doing that, started canvassing. But then at the same time, there was so much ground up development going on in Somerville, one of our other submarkets, that I was like, I mean, overwhelmed, honestly, because you're like trying to track the older product in the Class B, and then you're also trying to track what's to come with the developers looking at land and the tenants that may be pre-leasing buildings. So I was really diligent when I first started. Obviously, driving the market, I would go on like a Sunday and just try to get lost in the market and stumble upon streets that I'd heard of and been doing research on, as well as sitting down with an interactive map that my partner Matt really put together, which really helped me learn the market. Because I mean, it's how we teach developers and investors about the Charleston markets, is we sit down, we share a screen, and we just do a general bird's eye view. So it's almost like driving the market, just you can do it virtually. So being able to get on that after a long day at the office and really familiarize myself with like what's going on. And then it sounds silly, but also I would sometimes get some of my peers or friends or some like my roommate and just sit down with them and show them the map and be like, this is what's going on in the industrial market. So someone that doesn't know anything and putting it in terms that they can understand and grasp really helped me be able to kind of talk through the process. And then again, going back to when you start working on deals, talking to brokers, getting a feel for what's going on in the market and just learning the market. I think that's the hardest part and I think that's why it takes 3 to 5 years to really get started in the business, is to have that grasp on what's going on and have those relationships to help you continue that grasp and be knowledgeable in what you're talking about and truly be a specialist in your chosen sector. So definitely takes a lot of dedication and hard work, and you need to be passionate and love what you're doing, but it's fun. I think it's super fun.
Oh yeah, no. I mean, there's so many nuances to even, and that's why people specialize a lot of times, is because even within a specific property type, there's so many different things you need to really become an expert in to really call yourself a true expert. So, I'm sure as you're going through the process of learning the submarkets and all the different types of buildings in the area and tenants and landlords and all the influx and outflux of different things going on, it's
and
a lot.
specifically with industrial, something that I've really taken an interest in is, if anyone follows me on LinkedIn, is like supply chain in the Port of Charleston and just the macroeconomic impact that it has on the industrial market. So that's something I've really made a diligent effort to brand myself in someone that knows what's going on, knows what's really impacting the market on a larger scale. And so learning about that, then I can come to tenants and be like, hey, this is going on, maybe you should think about it. So bringing something that, like, for example, labor is something that's been top of mind for any occupier. So as a broker, as an industrial expert, I'm going and making myself knowledgeable on that topic and seeing if there's anything I can help them with, even if it's not looking for more space or doing build to suit or anything. It's informing them of what's going on and something they may need to prepare for. So
That's awesome. And that kind of leads me to my next question, which was, perfect transition, in that, the value proposition, because one of the hardest things a lot of times for people who are getting started is learning what value proposition can I offer to the marketplace, whether that's owners or tenants. And so how have you refined that value proposition so that you can, start to, establish yourself as that, expert, as you
Yeah.
said?
So obviously everyone changes with the market. In the past few years, Charleston and the Southeast in general has seen a lot of migration from the Northeast as well as out West, just with everything that's going on in the world and everyone relocating, retiring, who knows what's going on. But with that being said, it's a lot of educating people on what the Charleston market is. I think it's a very niche market, a different market, just because we are so port driven, and things that are impacting the macro economy may not be impacting us on the same scale, just because the port is our biggest economic driver, funding so many jobs, really funding the state in a sense. So definitely educating people on what's going on who may not have boots on the ground or who have ever looked for a building in Charleston. And again, just showing that you have those relationships, have that knowledge. So for example, Charleston is essentially a swamp when you go off of I-26, just because we are in the low country. So as you go up 26, I mean, you're finding sites for users because we just need so much development to keep up with the projected volumes of the port, but then you have to go and educate your clients, developers, investors on the potential wetlands that they may have to deal with, whether that's getting an IP or getting a JD, and working through that process. And that's why it's not nice, but beneficial to have those civil engineer relationships that you can bring in and really bring them up to speed with something that they may have never encountered in another market. So I think that's the biggest value proposition with those relationships, as well as the knowledge of just how to develop down here and dealing with different types of soils compared to markets all around the country.
Oh, definitely. No, I couldn't agree more. And you kind of touched on the idea of the relationship piece, because us as brokers have established relationships with a lot of different professionals. So in a situation where I may not know the answer for a legal question or a civil engineering question, you have that built-in network that you can leverage to better serve your clients. And so that's kind of the foundational basis of being able to be that quarterback or the person that people want to go to. And, if they have a question, if they think real estate, they call you first, and then that's where you become the node. So that's awesome. So, one of the things that I was kind of curious about is the evolution of how things have been going since COVID. Obviously, as we're recording this, we're near the tail end of 2022. I feel like we're getting back to somewhat normal, and obviously you as an expert in the supply chain sector probably have a better understanding of how we're shifting into a new reality as far as COVID is concerned. But as far as the local market and the demand for space, like how has that shifted over the last 2 years? And in today's current environment, we're experiencing increases in interest rates. So that's obviously causing that is impacting macro trends. And so I was kind of curious if you could kind of share, at least for your local market, how have you seen a shift occur?
Yeah, absolutely. So I guess I started January 2020, pretty typical deal flow, working through getting buildings leased up, helping tenants expand, relocate, sublease, whatever it may be. COVID hits, did a few short-term deals, and then I'd say like in the middle of 2020, it was just rapid fire. Everyone taking down as much space, everyone finding as much dirt as they can to put up as many buildings as they can, because coincidentally, I mean, no one would have known, obviously, COVID was going to happen, but the Port of Charleston have been working on opening the Hugh Leatherman terminal for the past decade, which happened to open in March 2020. So it's a 3-phase project that's going to double the Port of Charleston's capacity, which means if we're moving more cargo through the port terminals, we're going to need more warehouse space. So slowly, after a while, as we moved into 2021, I think the whole country, world, investors, developers kind of got wind of that port story. And we obviously have a lot of clients who really buy into that port story, just because, again, like you said, it's something different that is kind of driving the industrial market, because I always relate it to, I mean, here we are, 2022, things have slowed down. Everyone's seen Amazon freaking out, Target with oversupply, just little things that are happening in the supply chain as everyone really figures out what's going on and what's going to be a new norm. But buying into that port story and realizing that the port is always going to be operating is something that I really think is important that our clients understand, as well as, I mean, the users understand that the tenant activity has not slowed down, to say the least. I mean, my partner, Matt, and I always talk about this, is that we always bring it to our clients' attention and people don't realize it, is yes, we're seeing a lot of rent growth right now because there is a scarcity in the amount of space. We're looking at like less than 1% vacancy, which obviously is driving rents up. But the rent that you're charging a user, the rent that a user is willing to pay is only 3 to 5% of their overall operating costs, their real estate. It really doesn't make a huge dent in the budget compared to their transportation costs. So that's why I don't think the demand has slowed down, because they just need the space and it's extremely competitive. So you have to, when you're working with the user, you really have to stress the importance of, like, if you want to be operating in this facility by your targeted chosen date, you really have to take this seriously and get aggressive with your offer, just because there's so much competition right now. And I think that definitely will start to slow down in some sense in 23, because we're going to have a lot of buildings deliver, about like 12 million square feet, and then a significant amount proposed as well. So that may kind of leave rents at a stagnant point. But again, the port is doing everything in their power to continue to bring more business to the Port of Charleston. And obviously we talk day in, day out with the port, and they are selling the Port of Charleston with the Port of Savannah as almost a diversification play. So as Savannah's tapped out for space, that's just driving more activity and growth to Charleston. So, I mean, I guess that was kind of a long answer to your question.
It's
but
great. Well, it just showcases the and again, real estate's very market specific. So getting an understanding of how things are operating within the Charleston area, I'm sure there are some macro trends that we can draw from that could apply to other markets, but then there's others that are obviously very specific to what you're doing. And you alluded to the Savannah market. How far away is that from your current market?
I think it's like 3-4 hours, so not too far. And it's been our biggest competition ever, even before COVID, just because Savannah has been traditionally a big box distribution market. So they have those big bombers, 500,000 square foot plus, compared to Charleston. We've always been a rear load market focusing on manufacturing hard goods. I mean, we have Boeing, Mercedes, Volvo. They all have pretty large presences here. And then in 2019, 2020, the Port of Charleston was able to land a big deal with Walmart, who then opened a 2.9 million square foot distribution facility with a 100,000 square foot transload adjacent to it. And that's in Ridgeville. So that's about like 45 miles from the Port of Charleston. And I think that's really attracted a lot of business to show that Charleston is an efficient port and can, quote unquote, hang with Savannah. So it's been cool to see the impact that Walmart has had on the market and how that's really helping the port grow their business. But I mean, in years past, we would lose deals to Savannah because Savannah had that 500,000 square foot space and we just didn't. But we will. So
absolutely. And the economic development arms of different states also play a role. And that's one thing we're facing here I'm located in Louisville, Kentucky. And we're located along the Ohio River. So we share a border with Indiana. And so we're always competing with Southern Indiana for different, larger tenants that are coming into the area.
How do the rates compare? Are they pretty apples to apples, or what's kind of the makeup in that sense?
Yeah, I guess it depends on what area of the city you're located in. Here in Louisville, we have a couple different industrial parks. One being the biggest one being Bluegrass Commerce or Bluegrass Industrial Park. It's the largest industrial park in the city. Similar to you, it has like a 1 to 2% vacancy rate. So it's very hard to come by space in that area. And it's probably the highest price per square foot for industrial space in our Louisville market. And then obviously there's other developments and parks across the river in Indiana. There's one that's called River Ridge that a lot of developments are happening in that area. And, obviously it has the river access. So you have barge access at that point. And, you're not too far away from Louisville. It's literally hop, skip, and a jump. So, if you can benefit from the tax benefits. That's one of the biggest things that we're facing, is that the income tax in Indiana, I think, is 4%, and here in Kentucky it's 6%.
Mhm.
You know, a lot of times the economic development arms in Indiana kind of, you know, they sweeten the pot a little bit
Mhm.
better than we do at times, and so that obviously we lost business to people just across the river, which is, you know, it happens. It's just part of our geographic makeup. So
Yeah.
I definitely feel the pain.
Same here.
Yeah. So yeah, no, I mean, and again, I think another thing that I was kind of curious about, more so related to the makeup of the industry as a whole, is you had referenced crew being a big part of your entry into the
Yeah.
business.
Yeah,
And
so
go ahead.
I was just gonna say I have like a two-part story, but what was your question that you
No,
were gonna
so it kind of lends itself to finding mentors and finding people in the industry that can be there, and I guess more so related to the diversity within the industry, because I think one of the things that I noticed coming into it, I mean, I come from an engineering background, not the most diverse you know, industry either, and so coming into the space, I kind of noticed that the makeup of the industry of people within the brokerage space in particular is just, again, skews in one direction. So I was kind of curious if you could enlighten people on some of the ways that you think we could benefit by trying to expand the pool of
Yeah.
people that come into the industry.
Well, so I started like the first kind of push into the industry I got was through SIOR actually.
Mm.
So Society of Industrial and Office Realtors. There's a lot of scholarships for students, specifically women and minorities trying to get into the business. And so when I got that scholarship, that really opened up a whole pool of mentors to me. And I was meeting with people from all over the country, older men, older women, younger women. And I think as a student at the time, seeing that it was possible as a female specifically to kind of work your way and make a successful career, and what challenges that people had faced. I mean, I obviously would ask in those kind of introductory calls what challenges or what it kind of felt like at times. And then the next year I got the Crew Network Foundation scholarship. So that again opened another pool of mentors to me, and being able to work with these people and support each other in just situations. I'm actually on a crew council, which is specifically for emerging leaders. There's about like 20 of us. We have quarterly calls. I got to meet a lot of the females last week at the Crew Network convention, but it's almost like a soundboard. So let's say someone's having problems with their senior partner with splits, or is looking to make a change and doesn't really know how to go about it. We're able to kind of come together and share our opinions in a non-biased way, which I think is really important, having those mentors, having those soundboards, and just having almost that counsel that you can talk to and ask, what should I do in this situation? And I think as an industry, continuing to give back and talk to as many younger folks who are interested in the industry as possible is extremely important. I think giving them experience, whether that's having them shadow you for a day, an internship, anything that gives them exposure to the industry, I think is really important. I don't think it's something like I just was really lucky and was exposed to it when I was still in college, but I think a lot of people aren't really exposed to it. And that's why there isn't that many young people, there isn't that many females in it. And that goes back again to seeing people like, for example, I'm a younger broker in the industry, but seeing someone my age get started in the industry and being like, it is possible, and be a young female in industrial, it is possible. So I make sure to give back as much as I can, whether that's to like elementary students, even in middle school, high school, and then college students. I always make the time, because that's really what made an impact in my career, was able to create and cultivate those relationships. And always just being so transparent and honest with people, I think is really important, because obviously this industry does have turnover. People don't stay in real estate or brokerage forever if it's not for them. And just again, being an open sounding board and giving your experience and how you kind of position yourself in the most beneficial way possible.
That's awesome. No, yeah, and I think it kind of, you kind of hit several points on the head, which is, making people understand that it is possible to get in the industry. And I've had conversations with many people about it, and it can be a daunting task, especially if you don't have the support system, like you said, and the comfortability piece too. I mean, if you connect with people that are similar to you, you feel more comfortable being in that environment. And so, I'm hopeful for the future. Obviously you're showcasing within your career and everything that it is possible. You're showcasing being a leader in the industry. That's your trajectory on this
And I
path. And
think
so go ahead.
it's something I've been really like diligent about, making sure to connect with the CEO of Crew, Wendy Mann, the CEO of SIOR, Robert Thornburg, and be like, what are you doing to get young people in the industry? What are you doing to go above and beyond, and expose people to what is possible and the possibilities of careers in this industry? So just, I think, again, being so active, exposure, or talking about it is super important. And then it's really great to see more colleges offering real estate programs. So I think that is another it's another good step in the right direction, just because, again, I wouldn't be where I am today if it wasn't for my major and my exposure.
That's awesome. Oh, great advice. So another thing that I was kind of curious about, and this is something that you've been very active on, is on social media. It's become a lot bigger part of a day-to-day for a lot of people. So I was kind of curious as to how you've been able to leverage, LinkedIn in particular, because that seems to be a pretty powerful network. What are some of the ways you've leveraged the network to kind of help you in your career?
Yeah, so I actually started, LinkedIn's the only form I really use. I've tried Twitter, but it didn't really stick. And with industrial, like Instagram isn't going to be targeting my main prospect base. So I started LinkedIn when I was still a sophomore in college, actually. So it was like 2018, 2019. And I was just posting articles. I wasn't really putting much insights, but still was starting to get active on the platform. Then I was like, wait, this, like, I would have one post that would almost like blow up in a sense. And I was like, wait, this many people are seeing my name and this many people are seeing this content. So I started to get a little more active with it and kind of post more insights about it, and playing around with hashtags, tags, posting our listings, seeing what kind of had the most traction, as well as connecting with as many people as I could. So I just kind of continued to do that, and I post what I think is interesting. I try to keep it really biased, not political, nothing that people are going to argue about. And then through that, a lot more people also started doing that, just with COVID and realizing that it's another way to reach people. So that's kind of led me to diversify my content on a larger scale. So I kind of have taken note in the algorithm what does better than others, and posting a lot more original content now. So it's been a really, really cool way to build my network, as well as connect with a number of people. Like at Crew, I got to meet Casey Flannery and Bronwyn Scrivens, who like I've met through social media. And it's so weird because I feel like I know them, because your personality really comes out via LinkedIn if you're doing a video or a post. And it was really cool to spend some time with those people I've like interacted with on LinkedIn and social media. So I use it to build my brand, use it to build my network, use it to build I want to be top of mind that I am the expert when it comes to anything supply chain or industrial real estate in South Carolina. Please come to me. I will help you. I will guide you in the right direction. And then prospecting as well. I think it's a creative way to reach some tenants, if that's just sending them a message and just connecting, and it's done wonders for me. I've really benefited a lot from putting a lot of attention into my LinkedIn. But again, being organic with it and being authentic, I think, is the most important thing. I mean, Natalie Wainwright, I've connected with her a number of times, and she's like, just be authentic, be yourself. People know if it's not you. People know if someone else wrote the post for you. That I could never have someone else do, because it just isn't me. So I love LinkedIn. I think it's a great way to get your name out there and build your network beyond just your market.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And like you had alluded to it, it's your target audience, right? In your case, if you're trying to target industrial tenants or industrial owners, they're most likely going to be on LinkedIn or some other form of fashion. So, being able to leverage that, and also, like you had mentioned, the networking piece with people across the country. Like, you've built relationships with a lot of different people, and I'm sure with Colliers in particular, do you guys cross refer business across.
So Colliers is a extremely collaborative firm. That's one of the things that really attracted me to the firm when I was making a decision of where I wanted to get started. And we have a lot of specialty groups, especially in the industrial sector. So we have like a logistics and transportation group, then we have an emerging industrial leaders group. And so those smaller groups, I was able to kind of spearhead, like specifically for me, the emerging industrial leaders group. I made a goal to set 5 intro calls with people from our membership list and have just intro calls, introduce myself, hear about how they got into the business, see if there's anything we can help each other on, kind of talk shop in some sense, which goes back to helping you speak about your market in a knowledgeable sense. That was really good practice. And then our team made sure to connect with we tried to connect with almost every industrial team in Colliers and share best practices, share what's working, see if we have any cross-pollination with clients. So, I mean, Colliers, South Carolina specifically is extremely collaborative. We're an affiliate of Colliers International, and we're sure to do monthly Carolinas industrial calls. So we usually have a speaker, and then we do a roundtable of all the markets and just share like what leases just got inked, what developers are looking, what are people saying, what are our clients saying. So I think knowledge is power, and sharing with each other is key in this industry. And so having an open book of information with Colliers has been awesome, and building my network in that network, I guess.
That's all. Yeah, no, and again, it's there for you to be able to leverage. So it's great that you're taking initiative to actually pursue that as an option. So that's great. Well, Chloe, we greatly appreciate your time. I know you're busy. We've been going back and forth as far as getting this interview down, but we're really excited to kind of dive in to your background and learn a little bit more about you and some of the insights that you shared with the audience. So we greatly appreciate it. One of the things we typically like to do at the end of the podcast is we like to ask, what is one of the most impactful books that you've ever read? And it doesn't necessarily have to be commercial real estate related. Our audience are all voracious readers. So I don't know if you have anything you'd like to share on that.
Yeah, front. I mean, it is a commercial real estate book, because before I got into the industry, that's probably all I read. People would be like, what do you like to read? I was like, about commercial real estate. So Brokers Who Dominate, or Teams Who Dominate by Rod Santissimo was definitely one of the most impactful books I read. I think it's very authentic, very transparent. Every chapter ends with, what advice would you give younger brokers? And again, you're able to see that no broker or person in this industry is like another, and that's what makes it such a unique and special industry. So I always tell younger folks who want to get into the business to give that a read, just to get a general sense of like what you're interested in, essentially.
That's awesome. Yeah, Rod's a great guy. We've actually had a chance to interview him a while back, so he's a impressive guy, and I'm sure the books that you shared are going to be of a lot of value to the audience. So we greatly appreciate your sharing that.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. And one thing I'd like to ask you prior to hopping off is we have something called the Commercial Real Estate Treasure Chest. It's a repository of resources that we make available to our audience, and typically we have our guests contribute something to it, and we've had people contribute helpful PDFs, spreadsheets, really anything that they think would be of value to the audience. So if you don't mind, what do you think you're willing to contribute today?
I think so. I'm gonna have to do some
looking
in our files. Yeah. We have a really cool like about our team kind of brochure that we'd send to clients or hand out, and I think it again just adds the personable aspect into clients, like just letting them know that you're a person. Absolutely. Not just a real estate broker, adding some personality to it. So I think I'll share one of those.
That'd be great. No, we would appreciate that. So if you guys listen to this, you guys can gain access to that via the Treasure Chest link. And then finally, what if people wanted to get in contact with you? I know we have people who are investors, we have people who are business owners, and even other brokers that have people who are looking in other markets, and maybe Charleston's one of the markets they're looking at, and they want to be able to get in contact with you. What's the best way for them to reach you?
Yeah, so probably just my mobile phone number. My email is very long because my last name is very long. So should I just say my
You can either say it if you want, and we can include it in the show notes, however you want to do it.
Yeah, so 608-698-3003. And then I guess if you want to include my email as well, that's CHLOE.HEILIGENSTIN at Colliers, which is COLLIERS.com.
Awesome. No, we'll include that in the show notes, guys. So just in case you guys are like driving or doing something, you'll be able to access it in the show notes. So that's awesome. Well, Chloe, again, we thank you so much for your time. It's been greatly appreciated. I know you've shared a lot of valuable information, in particular for those who are getting started in the industry. I think a lot of times there's not a whole lot of advice out there for people. And so I'm thankful that we were able to get this conversation going, and hopefully our audience gains some value from these insights. If you guys are listening to this in a podcast format, we would greatly appreciate it if you could leave us a 5-star review. It makes a big impact in our ability to reach a broader audience. Along with that, if you guys are watching this on YouTube, we would greatly appreciate it if you could like and subscribe to this channel. It really helps with the YouTube algorithm and ensures more and more people can hear this message and learn about the many facets of commercial real estate. So thanks again so much for tuning in, and we'll see you all next time.